Um, so the thing that's important to understand, and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, which is that nation stems from the verb that means birth. And so the nation is intrinsically a group of people who are related by blood. It's a group of people who share DNA. In fact, the interesting thing when people try to deny the fact that the nation is based on blood is that that is actually a necessary but insufficient condition. You can have two different nations that are related by blood but do not share a language or do not share religion or do not share traditions. And to have a nation, you need all of those things. And so when you look at the modern state, what you're seeing there is the same sort of wizardry that you see Owen and I and others who criticize rhetoric. It's the same sort of wizardry that you see when people are trying to deceive you. What they try to do is they try to do a bait and switch, and they exchange the concept of the nation with the concept of the state. See, Paul Wilsorg has been subjected to the wizardry. He says, who cares about the technical description? U.S. is a nation based on ideals. There's no such thing as a nation based on ideals. That's the point. A nation based on ideals is an abstract entity. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And so when you, and what we're seeing in the United States and what we're also seeing in France and what we're seeing in the European Union is that these attempts to convert an abstract concept and combine it with the physical power of the state and then claim that it is a nation is totally unsuccessful. It doesn't work in any way, shape, or form. And that's why the United States is in the process of falling apart. That's why the United States fought a civil war. The North and the South were actually, both of them were constituted of combinations of different nations that were becoming entirely different nations. And the United States is not a nation. The United States is an empire that is held together by force. The United States of America has been a literal military empire ever since 1865. And the fact that you bought into the post-war propaganda claiming that, oh, well, we're a union now. Here's the really interesting thing about the United States is that as ridiculous and as manufactured and as artificial and as fundamentally flawed as the European Union is, it's actually a more legitimate union than the United States. And not only that, but the union between Scotland and England, the Union of Great Britain, which is much older than the United States of America, came this close to breaking apart. In fact, if the Scottish nation, as opposed to the Scottish state, had voted, all of the actual Scots, the majority of the native Scots, voted for independence. The reason that they lost is because they had been invaded by a sufficient number of English and other non-Scots who voted to keep the Scottish nation